And us from sunny California. Is looking beautiful where you're at, man. Before we get into the deep questions, and I've got some deep questions coming today. Could you give us a little bit of a background on what you were doing before you started the shamanistic path, how you got into the shamanistic path? And I'm really curious about that 1979 Kundalini awakening story.
Yeah. I had a strange childhood. I think you know, if back then they had it, it was a thing. I would have been on the spectrum, you know, of sorts, the autism spectrum or what have you. So a lot of different experiences, and had a couple of accidents that you know, I call near death experiences that helped me to see things and kind of get a perspective on things that I think was a little bit usual for shamans around the world, since, you know, as far as we know, but unusual for a suburban kid in Western, you know, North America and California. And so you know, nobody had any context for it from where I was, you know, my family or anyone around me. And then, in 1979, I was laying in bed, and I was doing I did a lot of meditation. It would be considered like transcendental meditation, but for me, it was just a way to like be comfortable in my body, because I had severe headaches every day, and I just had all kinds of problems, and I would just figure out ways to kind of get away from it and zone out. So I was by then pretty well practiced in that, I guess you might say. And I'm laying in bed and I'm like doing my thing. I'm kind of like going into a meditative state. And then all of a sudden I just had this like electrical explosion. It seemed like a light flashing, my head popping. My first thought was I just died, like I'm dead. You know, I felt the being to my left. I looked, and then like it kind of went across the ceiling, like gold popping electricity. And I was like, wow, okay, so I didn't get electrocuted. I'm still in bed. I'm not dead. Cool. And I just went to sleep.
And roughly how old were you at that point?
So that was, you know, what was that, 16 or so.
Okay. All right. Sorry, please go ahead.
No worries. And, you know, and I just kind of forgot about it. I was like, oh, that was, you know, that was weird, whatever. And then just forgot about it. But later realized, you know, when I started studying a lot of these things, that is, you know, what a classic sort of Kundalini experience or Kundalini awakening. Mm-hmm. And later I was studying in a guru tradition, a Hindu, you know, tradition, and was talking to the guru and this and that, and sort of asked, you know, what was that so-and-so, like in their lineage, like was that one of their who came to me that day and like did this? And they said yes. And so I said, okay, you know, cool. So
they were able to identify it?
Yeah, it made sense, you know. Because in shamanism in general, like, you know, we recognize time's nonlinear, it's non-local. You can go back in time, forward in time, and things can happen. It's not just cause and effect, you know, like what happened today was because of what I did yesterday. But like what happened today could be because of something I do 10 years from now. So it made sense in that regard. Okay. Yeah, that somebody from the future would be going, okay, we got to get this guy started. Let's go in and zap him, and then, you know, start him on the path. And certainly at that point, I mean, I did begin to study I went into Yogananda's tradition, Autobiography of the Yogi, and that led me to several others. And so that was the deal. You know, it led me on a path of discovery and practice and intense, you know, learning, and the beginnings.
It's interesting. I then want to ask how you got into shamanism specifically, but what I thought of when you mentioned that it was on your left side was I've researched near-death experiences quite a lot, and they all say that, well, not they all say, they frequently say that a person as they're dying will look to the left, and that there seems to be something with the left side, which I find really peculiar, and I've never been able to make sense of that, but it just jumped into my mind when you mentioned that.
Yeah, well, you remind me, there's a technique in our shamanic practice for doing destiny retrieval, for going forward in time or you can go anywhere on someone's timeline, and then you can choose possible timelines in the future and try to pick that and bring that in energetically to help influence that. And it's called left eye to left eye tracking.
Oh, wow.
And it's the same thing. Why the left eye? Why? Why does it? And we look into each other's left eye, and it must be just somehow the way the nervous system is wired to the energy body, right, through the chakra system, etc., like the conduits between the energy body and the physical nervous system and brain and such. And so maybe it's similar. Maybe there's something having to do with the left eye or the left side being an access point to the soul.
That's interesting. Yeah, even Emanuel Swedenborg had something big with the left eye. I'm not exactly clear on what it is, but I follow a Swedenborgian, I guess is what you'd call it, and it talks frequently about the left eye situation. But okay, so then you start down the spiritual path. How did you wind up with a shamanistic tradition?
Yeah, I studied a lot of different healing modalities, just kind of everything I could get my hands on in spiritual traditions and wisdom traditions. And I was just drinking it in because
And this was, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. But this was while you were also studying electrical engineering?
Yeah, so it was through my late teens, 20s, all through college when, I just got directed in that, for work, for whatever life. And so yeah, I was just, like, people were going out partying on the weekends and evenings, and I was reading, and I was practicing, and I was doing stuff and healing, hands-on healing, all kinds of things. And so I just naturally really loved it, and I wanted to learn everything I could, and just kind of went wherever the wind blew me in that way. And shamanism in particular came about because I had been to one of my healers, who's an energy medicine guy, and done a lot of work on my physical body because I had a lot of accidents, a lot of death experiences. I was kind of messed up in a lot of ways. So, he was helping me out. He did a great job. Brilliant guy, Dr. Richard Baldwin. And but one day I go, hey, what am I really here to do? Because I was by then working in engineering and not really feeling it, and I knew that there might be something else I prefer to do. And he went off into his altered state, talked to his guides the way he worked, and he came back and he said, they're giving me the words mediator of souls between the worlds. And at that point I was like, what? Like, I don't know what to do with that. I'm not sure what kind of job that is.
Put that on a job resume, huh?
Yeah, no, and he didn't know either because he was just channeling this. So he's like, I don't know, but don't worry, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Like, at some point you'll figure it out. I was like, okay, that's cool. And I kind of forgot about it. And literally a few years later, I was on one of my lunch breaks at work up in Mountain View, and I went into the East West bookstore, which one of my favorite, since the Bodhi Tree bookstore in LA and East, like, this is where I read everything I could get my hands on, basically. And I was walking around going, geez, I've kind of read everything in here. I wonder if, but I always look just to see what's up. And there was a book on the table, brand new book called Shaman Healer Sage by Dr. Alberto Vialdo. And I looked through it a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This looks neat, And I read it and it was like, oh my God, this comprehensively covers everything else I've ever studied in every single, like, this is brilliant. It's like, it's all of it in one efficient package. And I was like, this is amazing. I got to meet this guy. And I got into his workshop literally 2 weeks later at Esalen, which is unheard of. Like, I got the last seat somehow, and I drove down there and condors were flying by. By then I had done all the Castaneda stuff. So I was into all the, like, the signs and the symbols and all that kind of stuff, just as a spectator. But I get to the workshop, I sit down, Alberto sits down, and very first thing comes out of his mouth is, a shaman is just a mediator of souls between the worlds, which was the same thing I was told 3 years ago.
Same words, huh?
Same words. And that's kind of, like, I'm a very practical, pragmatic person. I'm very skeptical by nature. I don't go easily into something, like, things have to make sense to me, and have to line up and match. And, like, I've always been that way, or I won't jump in, and this was like, oh geez, I didn't really want it. It scared me. I didn't want to be a shaman or see myself as that, but I couldn't deny that that synchronicity. So I asked Alberto, "What do you think?" And I had done we did some demonstrations in the class before that, before lunch, when I asked Alberto, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't think, and I was trying to read somebody, and I thought I just had to make something up not to look ridiculous. And so I was telling him what I saw, and it turned out to be like completely accurate and stuff. And Alberto's like, "Yeah, dude, this is what you already, because of all my previous trainings, like you already mostly have this. You just need to finish this training and get initiated." And I was like, "Wow, okay." So I dove in, maxed out all my credit cards to learn and go do his program, the Healing the Light Body School at the Four Winds, which is to me just brilliant training, and with the Caro Indians from Peru, who do the initiations and connect us to their lineage that goes back, tens of thousands of years, and are very powerful. They come to me in dreams, like a lot of stuff. Wow. Then a lot of stuff just starts happening, and you kind of, no matter how skeptical and, which I continue to be today, it's like something will happen that kind of goes, yeah, no, this is worth it. You should do it. It's real.